Planned Parenthood, the nation's #1 provider of abortion, is up to something very big in the city of St. Paul, and they don't want you to know about it. Hi, I'm Kalley Yanta, and welcome to Did You Know, a 30-minute program designed to inform you, #1, about this construction project, and secondly, to get you thinking about where you personally stand on the issue of abortion. Our first Did You Know question is this. Did you know that Planned Parenthood is building its 3rd largest community health center in the country, right in the heart of St. Paul's Midway area? It is a strategic location, to say the very least. 1 block north of University Avenue on Vandalia Street, it is nestled right in the heart of the most prominent colleges and universities in the state, which hold the primary age range of Planned Parenthood's clientele, college-aged women. It is also just a half a block away from the new Central Corridor light rail line, currently under construction, which will make access to it that much easier. Brian Gibson is Executive Director of Pro-Life Action Ministries, a nonprofit organization that offers free help to women in crisis pregnancies.
This big box thing, this large mega abortion facility, is a Planned Parenthood trend solely. And from what we can tell, they've built 7 of these already around the country. They've got 5 more that are being built, just like this one is. This will be the 3rd largest of all of them.
If you haven't heard about this project until now, he says don't be surprised. It's all a part of the strategy. Gibson says Planned Parenthood has deliberately not put up any promotional signage in the area, like what you'd see at most major construction sites, that proudly let the community know what's coming soon. In fact, that secrecy started way back in 2007 when they purchased this property.
Basically, they created an LLC. A corporation, not actually a corporation, but a private ownership group for the purchasing of the property, so that, and by doing it as this LLC, it didn't have to reveal who the owners or who the group was, so that it could be done very clandestine, which is exactly how it was done. They've done this because they don't want to have the public to know that they're buying it, that they're coming in, that they're doing this, until it's too late for the public to say, wait a minute, we don't want you here.
Kind of close to home. It's strange. It's weird. I had no clue what it was until I saw protesters out here a while back.
Anything that is objected by a group of people and loved by a group of people creates conflict. You know what I'm saying? So this is going to be very controversial for it to be right here, especially on University. This is our state capital.
I don't believe in it, but I think more effort's got to be into putting the family structure back together better. It's broken. And that's why this is going up. And they're making a lot of money. They're going to make a lot of money here. A lot of federal dollars will pour into this corner. So I don't know. It's not a good thing.
I think it needs to be available to those who need to use it.
And a lot of the shop owners and the businesses and the customers, consumers at these businesses, had no idea that this was a Planned Parenthood until we come out here with a rally.
Those rallies lead us to Did You Know question #2. Did you know that there have been significant efforts to stop the project, from regular protests at the site to a public awareness campaign targeting those involved in its construction? First, let's look at the protests.
I can't have you way out here.
Hundreds of men, women, and even children have come here praying.
And blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Singing songs.
I love thee, Lord Jesus.
Carrying signs. They've come by the busload, requiring permits and a police presence, each with a message encouraging life.
We're here to show our support for life and for the protection of life.
I'm here because I know how wonderful it is to have children, and just the thought of any fewer kids out in the world is very sad to me, and I'm here to support this organization and just let people know that I stand up for something that's pretty important to me, and that's the right to life. And I think it's critical in today's day and age.
Some who have attended these rallies have shared a message based on their own experience with abortion.
And we know that our babies were ripped apart. We know that it's not just cells and tissues. We know that because I scratch my head every day and I get a little cells and tissues in my fingernails, And that doesn't give me a nervous breakdown. That doesn't send me into a depression. Killing our babies will do that to you.
Why are you here?
I'm here because I want to bring awareness to the fact that so many people are misled and lied to about what abortion really is, what it really involves, and what happens afterwards, because I believe so many people just don't understand, including probably the people that are working here, don't understand what's really going to happen here and what these people are really going to go through.
I was not a believer when I had an abortion with my now wife, but a fiance back in New York many years ago. And when you're not saved, you'll do anything, even taking the life of your own child at a convenience.
I went through years of just regrets and depression. It really kind of boiled over about 6 or 7 years later. You know, I was 16 when I had mine, so I was able to kind of stick it on the back burner for a little while. It never went away. And then it was after I had my first child with my husband that things just became very real. And God decided, you know, he just told me it's time to deal with this. And so I spiraled downward for a long time, and when I hit bottom, he was there. And so he's really brought me a long way since then, but it was a really hard time.
And do you think that's true for most women following their abortions?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't believe it if anybody said that they never go through that. I believe that it's a different timeline for everyone. I have spoken to women where it's 20, 30 years later. But I truly believe that not only the women are going through it, but the fathers, anybody who's involved. Because, you know, it truly is just a death in the family. And at some point or another, it will affect everybody. It's not just the mom.
Protesters have also come, bearing a message directed at the construction workers, encouraging them to walk away from this job site.
These workers here are not our enemy. We don't wrestle with flesh or blood, but with power and principalities in high places. They are not the enemy. Treat them with respect, pray for them, challenge them with your signs, challenge them and ask them a question. What would Jesus do? Or are you a believer? If they are not a believer, witness to them.
Thousands of kids are gonna die here.
Well, I would just say, even though it's a terrible economy, and there's so many people that are looking for jobs, that what you're doing is just contributing to the total abortion increase in the Twin Cities. And that's just a tragedy that you're going to have to live with the rest of your life.
Thank you for being here. This is a very important thing that we do, to witness to our faith in the world. So thank you for being here.
But witnessing one's faith in the world is not always met with support, as this group of Bible school families quickly learned.
These people need to stay employed. Are you going to hire them? 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 Come on now. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm an employer and I'm trying to keep all my people working, and that is bullshit.
I just saw a lot of very young children walking around, and I just don't agree with that, because I don't think they know the whole story, and they're too young to know the whole story. And I really resent whenever any demonstrations happen and they bring in children who have very little knowledge of what's happening. They're just following their parents or their teachers.
You brought your kids today. Why is that?
I just wanted them to see that, you know, abortion is real. It's not hidden. It's a real thing. So it just was so tangible being down here today and being able to pray with everyone.
God will help them find another job if they quit, because you don't want to be driving and be like, oh, guess what? I helped build this. What is it? Planned Parenthood. They kill babies there. You want to have a job that you can be proud of.
We helped a young college girl who was here in Minnesota, who was found herself pregnant, didn't know where to turn for help, saw our sign, called for help, and we helped her get in line with a beautiful adoption agency, and the couple is now a happily adopted family because this young woman saw the sign and called for help. So our target is, we make no bones about it. I want to target everybody going into that abortion clinic, that monstrosity in St. Paul, but we're targeting all Minnesotans because we want them to know the truth and the beauty of human life.
Mary Ann Kuharski is a mother of 13 and founder of Pro-Life Across America, which displays billboards nationwide that encourage women in crisis pregnancies to choose life. If I were one of the contractors working on that site right now, what would you say to me about my role? Albeit it is a remote participation in it.
Right. Maybe I have a son-in-law who's an electrician. I have another son-in-law who's in construction. I would say walk away from your job right now, and God will give you a job that's 3 times as financially profitable, and you will rest and sleep at night. You won't rest and sleep at night when you know that they're tearing to shreds little babies, and you helped build the monstrous, it would be like building Auschwitz. You helped build that and make that possible. If all you workers walked off the job, they would have no help in getting that possible.
What is the tact that Pro-Life Action Ministries is taking?
Well, as we have seen contractors come out here and start doing work, we have contacted them via mail right away, encouraging them not to do the work, letting them know that what they're doing is building a killing center. They're building a killing center and that they shouldn't do this. So we've appealed to them not to do it. After making that contact, if we don't get a response from them, which has been the case so far, no one has responded to these contacts, we then are listing them on the internet so that good people can contact them also and let them know that they shouldn't be doing this work and to get out of it.
Here's a look at that list of contractors he's talking about. You can access it on the internet at www.plam.org. Gibson says that effort has met with considerable success.
Oh, absolutely. We know of men that were working on the job, not the contractors, but the construction workers, guys working on the job who walked off the job because they came under conviction and realized they couldn't be a part of building this, what's going to be a very horrific place, killing babies by the thousands every year. And so we've had that. We've had contractors who started to do the work, and then when they got contacted, they started contacting us and saying, well, we really didn't mean to be here and we're not going to do any more with it, and they quit. And then we've got other contractors who simply did not do the work in the first place. They refused to either put a bid in, or they found out what it was and said, there's no way we're doing this.
One of the men he is talking about is Tim Roach, an electrician who was offered a job to oversee the electrical work at the Planned Parenthood site. That offer came after he had been out of work for close to 2 years.
He said, well, it's a clinic and there's protesters on it. And he said it so fast, I said, what? Are we protesting something? He said, no, no, no. There's going to be protesters on the job, and would you feel comfortable working this job with protesters?
Once he learned that he would be building a Planned Parenthood where abortions will take place, Tim and his wife Nicole agreed that despite their dire need for Tim's employment, he had to say no.
When I do projects, I want to feel the pride of doing a project. And when I'm with relatives or friends, oh, hey, we're driving by, I did that project, you know, and be all excited, and they're going, wow, really? How could I go by this project and say, I did that project? And then they say, oh, it's Planned Parenthood. You did that? I couldn't, you know, that's the other side of it. But first was, you're killing babies.
In case you're wondering, Tim did get a different job shortly after turning down that offer.
Praise God for Tim Roach. He left this job. He was offered a $70,000 contract to supervise some electrical workers. He chose to follow the steps of Jesus. He chose to be obedient to the calling of God on his life. He chose to be obedient because the word says that Jesus has come to give us life, and life that more abundantly. He cut his ties with this because he did not want the blood of the children on his hands.
The blood of the children. That term leads us to Did You Know? Question number 3. Did you know that Planned Parenthood claims its focus is not abortion at all? In fact, when looking at its website, you'll find this claim, that 3% of all Planned Parenthood services are abortion services. Well, the nation's #1 provider of abortion can make that claim this way. If this pie chart represents one abortion, each of the services required to perform that abortion is reported as a separate service. For instance, the pregnancy test used to confirm the pregnancy is listed as one service. The counseling session is another. The sedation, if used, is another. The ultrasound, again, if one is used, is another service. The abortion procedure itself is the only one reported as the abortion, although clearly all of the services were required. Planned Parenthood also claims that a condition known as post-abortion syndrome does not exist, and that serious long-term emotional problems following an abortion are about as uncommon as they are after giving birth. Well, let's listen to a few moms who describe what they experienced after their abortion.
They told you it wouldn't hurt, just a little pinch. You might feel just a little bit of cramping. Well, when they open up your cervix, that's not a little bit of cramping. You're in labor at that point. And then they stuck the instrument in, it's a suction device. And I'll never forget it. After they finished sucking out the baby, our baby, well, mine at that time, there was a jar where the suction, whatever the contents would go into the jar, and it was a glass jar. And I remember looking over at the glass jar and all that blood and whatnot, and I didn't see parts, but I wanted to puke.
The doctor entered with a large needle, and he shot it into my belly. After that, I never felt my baby move again. The next morning, I entered a large room with about 5 other women. We were all placed in our own hospital beds and hooked up to an IV that was meant to put us in a twilight state of consciousness. Unfortunately, I remember every detail of that experience. I was freezing, shaking, cramping, and alone. Someone gave me 2 little pills, and I thought they were going to make me feel better, but instead they forced me into labor. Then the nurse walked down the baby-killing assembly line to see how dilated each of us was, and one by one we were taken off in a wheelchair to a separate room. When it was my turn, I was surprised to enter a small room with what seemed to be a toilet. I was told to sit on the toilet, lean on the nurse, and push. And so I did. I pushed my dead baby into a toilet. After all this trauma, I lay on another examination table, waiting for the doctor, and a nurse placed her hand on my stomach and said with a smile, "Look at how skinny you are now." I just cried. For weeks after the procedure, I was severely depressed. I rarely got out of bed. My body was bleeding and confused because it went through the process of having a baby, but I had no baby to care for. Eventually, I got out of bed, but I battled depression to this day, and I have been suicidal many times in my life. I have used drugs and alcohol. I was promiscuous, but never enjoyed sex. I had very little self-worth and developed bulimia. I hated my parents and rebelled any way I could. I have been in therapy since the abortion, and within the last couple years, I have made a lot of progress. I was caringly persuaded to attend a Rachel's Vineyard retreat in April 2005. This retreat changed my life because although I had always heard, God forgives you, I never felt it like I did at the retreat. His mercy was falling like rain all around me, but I had an umbrella up. The retreat forced me to fold my umbrella, and when I did, I was drenched in the forgiveness God was pouring out all along. Being with the other women helped a lot as well. I saw that other women had made the same mistake I did, and I didn't condemn them, so I realized I needed to stop condemning myself. People need to know that the babies our country allows to be murdered every day are not lumps of masses, but living children with souls and worth. I felt my baby move inside me. She had a personality, and I left that baby dead in a toilet. And my story is multiplied day after day, baby after baby.
It's not something that is like a quick and easy fix. It's with you every day of your entire life. And yes, you can come to peace with it, but every day you will always know what happened to that child and that your role in it was that you consented to it. I always say, nobody put a gun to my head. Nobody did. I may have had good reasons by some standards or, trying to save my father. Nobody put a gun to my head. I chose it. And that's something I will always have to live with. Always have to live with.
How would you answer this question? What does abortion do to a person?
If you're talking about a mother, it's worse than death. It's worse than a physical death. And I always say that, at least when I was going through the midst of the pain, that hell would be paired at Club Med compared to that hell. And it was like, that's why wanting to commit suicide led me torture myself, torture me the way that I did that child. It's hell on earth. It's worse than hell on earth. It's a living hell. In every way, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
That's my heart's desire, is that not another baby, not another woman is destroyed by this solution that is, it's poison. It's cancer to her soul, to her being, to her mind. It is not a good choice. It's a bad choice. And the people that promote and support and think they're helping, I don't know, obviously you can't see my tears, you haven't been in my life, but you didn't help me. You did not help me.
Stories like these will be repeated at this new facility by the thousands, a place where abortions will be performed through the 17th week of pregnancy. Former abortionist Dr. Anthony Levatino describes what happens to the baby in a second trimester abortion.
A physician reaches in with a Sofer clamp and basically kind of feels around for anything he can get, because this is a blind procedure. And when you basically got a hold of something, picture yourself pulling on this clamp hard, and I mean really hard, and suddenly it lets go and out pops a leg that big, which you put down on the table next to you. And you reach in with the Sofer clamp again through the cervix, being careful not to perforate the cervix. And again, picture yourself kind of reaching around and kind of grab anything you can and cinch down on that clamp and pull hard, really hard, and when it suddenly lets go, out pops an arm about the same length, which you put down on the table next to you. And then you put this clamp in again and again, and you tear out the intestines, the spine, heart and lungs, all coming in pieces, and then dumped on and put on the side of the table. Then you get to the hardest part of a D&E procedure, which is the head. Because a head on a baby that size is about the size of a plum, and now it's floating free within the uterine cavity. You'll know you did it right, and again it's blind, but you have to reach in and you'll know you did it right when you've got your clamp around something and your fingers are spread about as far as they're going to go. And you'll know you did it right if you crush down on the clamp and if some white material runs out of the cervix, you know you did it correctly because that was the baby's brains. And then you can literally pull out skull pieces one by one. And if you had a bad day like I did a lot of times, sometimes a little face comes out and stares back at you. Congratulations, you just accomplished a D&E abortion. You just affirmed her right to choose. You just made $600 in 15 minutes cash.
The average cost of a second trimester abortion today is considerably higher, leading us to Did You Know? Question number 4. Did you know that despite the fact that Planned Parenthood claims only 3% of its services are abortion services, roughly 20% of its income comes from abortion? Abby Johnson knows that firsthand. The former Planned Parenthood clinic director describes how the first jump in price comes at 10 weeks gestation.
So we thought that she was going to have to pay $450, but now that she's back on the table and we do the ultrasound, she's actually going to owe $550. Well, she's going to have to give us that before we go any further. So who's going to have to go in there and get that money? Probably the last person that was hired, because that's just not a fun job. So we're going to task that person to go in, and the woman's still laying on her back and feet up in the stirrups, most vulnerable position a woman is ever in at the doctor. And she's laying on her back, and somebody walks in and they say, now listen, I know that you've already paid us $450, but that was when we thought you were 9 weeks and 4 days pregnant. Now that we've done the ultrasound, we found out that you're actually 10 weeks and 1 day pregnant, so that's going to make a difference in the cost. Now, there's really no reason for there to be a difference in the cost. It's just that it can be a difference, so there is one. So they say, no, it's going to be a little different now. So how do you want to pay that $100? I mean, now don't bother getting up. I mean, your purse is down here. Do you just want me to rifle through it and get it for you? Is there cash in there? Do you want me to put it on a credit card? How do you want me to do it? I'll pick it up, you just point to it in here, and I'll get it out for you. Seriously. We don't want her to get up. And you know what? That happened all the time. We never, ever, ever had a woman not come up with that $100.
Abby Johnson is the author of Unplanned, a book that in part details the event that fundamentally changed her pro-choice beliefs, a day when she was asked to assist in an ultrasound-guided abortion.
And I watched this child flee until eventually there was nowhere else for this baby to go, and this baby was backed up to the other side of his mother's womb, and the doctor had to reposition the cannula because this baby had moved far enough away. And when he did that, he asked the surgical technician to turn on the suction, and he said, "Beam me up, Scotty." I knew it was gore. Anybody in here think abortion doesn't involve blood? Anybody in here think abortion is pretty? I didn't think so. I knew abortion was graphic. I knew it was gross. I knew it was bloody. I saw it. I didn't know that that child would be struggling and fighting for its life. That's what changed my mind. That's why I left.
Abby is now a highly sought-after pro-life speaker, and because of her inside experience with Planned Parenthood, she's on the team of investigators with a nonprofit organization called Live Action. It's been conducting undercover sting operations at Planned Parenthood clinics nationwide, investigations that have shown a clear and frequent willingness by clinic workers to break the law.
Once they get to 15, then there's a little bit more playroom. So as long as they just lie and say, oh, he's 15, 16, you know, as long as they don't say 14, and as long as it's not too much of an age gap, then we just kind of like, play.
What if they do say they're 14?
Well, you know, then from there, it's just really watching what they say.
One Planned Parenthood employee was fired after this sting, which shows how the nurse was torn between reporting a clear case of statutory rape as required by law and overlooking it.
But he's not as old. I mean, he might be
doesn't matter.
A lot older, but he doesn't act a lot older, you know? And I act a lot older than I am, so it works out because he might be 31, you know. He's older. But he's not like older, but he's way, I don't know, you know what I'm talking about.
But he's not like that. He's not like weird.
Yeah, he's not weird.
In the state of Indiana, when anyone has had intercourse and they're age 13 and younger,
I'm almost 14.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
You're 13.
Okay.
It has to be reported to Child Protective Services. Okay, I didn't hear the age. I don't want to know the age.
Okay.
It could be reported as rape.
Oh, okay.
And that's child abuse.
Oh.
Okay.
So if I just say, I don't know who the father was, but he's one of the guys at school or something.
Right.
Okay.
Those sting operations conducted by Live Action have prompted an investigation by Congress into possible financial improprieties and criminal activity by the abortion giant. And that is all happening while state after state after state is taking up legislation to defund Planned Parenthood.
What we need to do is raise up more awareness and resources so women don't feel like they need to go to a place like this.
So, while the third largest Planned Parenthood in the nation is set to open its doors in St. Paul, the nonprofit's future itself may not be as firm as the foundation these workers have laid here.
Women are strong. Women have the opportunity and the power to be able to bring a child into this world and be able to raise that child, and they don't always need a hand out, they need a hand up. And that's what we need to give them for this place to be shut down. Thank you.
All right, no more did you know questions. Now that you are aware of this construction project, it's time to consider something of fundamental importance. Where do you personally stand on the value of human life? That's a question that only you can answer, and I urge you to please give it some serious thought. Thank you for watching.